Hello, everyone. My name is Jenna Jacobs. I am the Director of Development at the Paul Taylor Dance Foundation, and I am here with Artistic Director Michael Novak. I want to welcome you all joining us this evening to Community Day, Designing Taylor. Thank you for wrapping up your weekend with us. Before we start, I just want to take a moment to thank the Board of Directors and Board of Advisors of the Paul Taylor Dance Foundation for their incredible support and guidance, especially throughout the past year. And in addition, I'd like to express our ongoing appreciation to the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs for making public programs like this possible. Despite the challenges of the past year, the DCA has been a continual advocate and supporter of the arts in New York City, and we are deeply grateful to them. If you can join in the effort to support our company, I hope you will go to ptamd.org/donate and chip in whatever you can to help sustain our organization and so that we can continue to provide opportunities like this one to you. A gift of any size helps us remain connected to you until we can get back in the theater. And lastly, although as always, we'd rather welcome you into our Lower East Side studios in person, we are proud to offer this dynamic discussion with Director of Special Projects, Stacey-Jo and Tony Award-winning lighting designer and longtime Taylor collaborator, Jennifer Tipton, and to show Mr. Taylor's Piazzolla Caldera, one of my favorites. With that, I am headed to the live chat, so I hope you'll join me there. It is my pleasure to introduce Artistic Director Michael Novak, who can provide more insight into what you'll see this evening. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Jenna, and welcome everyone. My name is Michael Novak, and thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. Tonight, we are proud to host our 6th Community Day and our 2nd installment of our series, Designing Taylor, an opportunity for you to gain unique insights from the designers who worked alongside and collaborated with Paul Taylor. Where there is a dance maker, there is a team of visual artists, set designers, costume designers, lighting designers, and composers that work masterfully to bring a vision to life. This series honors these important relationships. Now, please know we deeply believe that the only way to truly understand and experience the brilliance and magnitude of Paul Taylor's dances is live and in the theater. But in response to these challenging times, we continue to create opportunities to engage with you, dialogue as a community, and share stories that you might not normally get to hear. And tonight, I'm thrilled to offer you just a glimpse of the nearly 2-hour conversation my colleague Stacey-Jo had with principal lighting designer Jennifer Tipton. Jennifer's history with the Paul Taylor Dance Company began in the early 1960s as the company's stage manager. She quickly realized her passion for lighting and honed her craft as a young designer on some of Mr. Taylor's quintessential works. These included Orbs, Big Bertha, Esplanade, Cloven Kingdom, Art and Court, to name just a few. The list goes on and on. In fact, she has designed an unimaginable 92 Taylor works. That means that she has designed 63% of all of Mr. Taylor's dances, which is remarkable. Beyond her work with the company, Jennifer is a celebrated designer for Broadway, opera, and dance around the world, garnering her two Tony Awards, the Jerome Robbins Prize, the New York City Mayor's Award, the Dorothy and Lillian Gish Prize, and a MacArthur Fellowship. Other notable choreographers she has designed for include, and you may have heard of some of them, Jerome Robbins, Twyla Tharp, Mikhail Baryshnikov, Dan Wagner, a proud Taylor alumni, and Shen Wei. Since 1981, she has been a professor of design at the Yale School of Drama, and most recently was nominated for a Tony Award for her design of Broadway's To Kill a Mockingbird. Her resume is extremely impressive, as you can see, but it is her storied experience with the Paul Taylor Dance Company that I find most remarkable. I hope you enjoyed this conversation between Stacey-Jo and Jennifer. Stacey-Jo served as the company's stage manager for over 6 years and is currently our special projects producer. She has a vast understanding and appreciation of Jennifer's designs. The roughly 20-minute conversation will be followed by a full screening of archival filming of Piazzolla Caldera, which Mr. Taylor premiered in 1997. with music by Astor Piazzolla and costumes and sets by Santo Loquasto. This entire evening should run about 45 minutes. So a few things to remember. Our chat is live, as Jenna said, so please feel free to join us and comment in real time. Also, this is an archival film that you're about to see. And a film of Paul Taylor's dances is not really the dance. It's like a 2D copy. So while it's not the same thing as seeing the dance in the theater, it is the best we can do given the pandemic. So without further ado, I am proud to connect us with the one and only Jennifer Tipton. We are grateful for her time, her passion, and insights to enrich your experience of the Taylor world. Enjoy the program.
Hello, Jennifer. It's great to see you. We're so happy that you could join us for this. I'm going to start by just sharing my little history with the company, my 25-year history with the company, short compared to yours. I was the production stage manager for 6 years in the 90s, 1995 through 2000. After I left the company full-time, I also filled in as a lighting supervisor on a few tours. I filled in as a company manager for a few tours. I took Taylor 2 out many, many times. And my current position, my current title is the special projects producer for the company, which is very exciting. I get lots to do. And again, I have a 25-year history with the company, but I am thrilled to be here with you. I am in awe, actually, because I want to hear you talk about Paul and Paul Taylor Dance Company. And I know you have been associated with the company for over 55 years. And that's since before you started designing for the company, too. So I would love for you to tell our audience about your trajectory.
Thank you, Stacey-Jo. I'm delighted to be here, and I am Jennifer Tipton, lighting designer for the Paul Taylor Company. The Paul Taylor Company. Paul Taylor taught me everything I know, along with Tom Skelton, who was the lighting designer when I began with Paul. But my beginnings, I guess, were in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I started studying dance at the age of 12. With a teacher in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which was about 25, 30 miles away, every Saturday. And she had been a Denichon dancer. So I did not begin with ballet and tap the way most kids do, but with modern dance. And when I was 15, I went to the first, to Connecticut College for the American Dance Festival. And that is when I fell in love with the Graham technique. As a senior in high school, my parents let me come to New York to study with the Martha Graham, at the Martha Graham School, the Christmas course. And I stayed at the Barbizon Hotel for Women, all by myself in New York at the age of 16. Anyway, I went to college. My mother said that my letter to Cornell sounded like that Cornell was a dance school, but I went to be the first person on the moon. I wanted to be an astrophysicist. But I changed my mind, and then eventually I graduated from Cornell and came to New York to dance. But I had been to the American Dance Festival several times. And one of those times I met Dan Wagner. And then one day in New York, I was on the subway, and there was Dan, and Dan had become a good friend. And he was with Paul Taylor. And that was when I met Paul for the first time. But anyway, I began working with the Paul Taylor Company as a stage manager in charge of doing the lighting on tour. And it was Tom Skelton's lighting, and he's the one who mentored me and who sent me out with the company. And it was his lighting that I did for a few years until one event. The company was asked to have a season, we called it, on Broadway. That meant 4 performances. That season on Broadway, the producer did not want Tom Skelton to do the lighting. So he asked another person. And when the season was over, I said to Paul, I'm perfectly happy to do this person's lighting on tour, but I really would like to do my own. And he said, yes, do your own. And I started lighting for the Paul Taylor Company. And the first piece was quite a wonderful piece, quite a challenging piece, and a long piece to Beethoven. It was pretty juicy, pretty meaty, called Orbs. And one of my favorite parts of it was when there were 4 dancers on stage, each sort of doing a solo in them to themselves. And I put them in 2 very bright streams of light from lights called beam projectors that you don't even see today. And I love that moment. I love that dance. I'm what's called as a WYSIWYG fan. What you see is what you get. I don't make up the stories. The dance tells its own story. The light can have a different story occasionally, but generally it's mainly to illuminate the story of the dance.
Fantastic.
It's interesting, but in the early lighting in America, there were 3 important designers, and 2 of them were women. And so somehow it's been okay all along for women to tell these crusty old stagehands what to do. So we're lucky here.
The next dance that I would love to talk to you about is the great Esplanade, which you designed, of course. And I have relit many times. I love that dance so much, as most of our audience does. Would you talk to us about your approach with Esplanade and any memories you have of that?
Yes, well, my first of all, it's so energetic for most of it. And so the light needed to complement or show or embellish. The energy of the light had to be equal to the energy of the dancers. But then for the second movement, when everything is quiet, I tried always to make the light there, to make the dancers visible, of course, but to make it just as little light as possible. And it was always a challenge, and I was always saying, no, that's too dark, no, just a little, no, that's too bright, back and forth to get exactly the dim glow that is perfectly possible to see with, but has sort of the low energy of the quiet time. And then, of course, out of that comes the diagonal. And so that was the bright streak that I just felt it should be. I like to be specific. And so as much as possible, if dancers quiet down, and obviously if they move all over the stage, I'll light all over the stage. But if they quiet down and are in one place, I like to let the light fall away around them and bring up the light on them. And somehow the path spoke to me that way, the diagonal path. And so I made it and had to add lights to the setup at that point to make that diagonal.
Right. You had to, so you had a repertory light plot that you had already been working from. Esplanade is in the 70s, 75. And so you had been working for 10 years with the same light plot, pretty much.
Always my attitude, and if there's a new piece, is to add as many lights as I think we will possibly need. You know, I'll see the dance in the studio and then add special lights to the repertory plot and then try not to use them. Because, say, if every new dance had 10 specials, pretty soon there wouldn't be enough space for all the lights. So you can't add a lot of specials for every dance. So for the second movement of Esplanade, those lights for the diagonal had to be added. And then it was pretty soon thereafter, I think, that we did Ardencourt, which we already had one diagonal for Esplanade. So I thought, okay, let's have they came, on from the other diagonal. All right, let's add the other diagonal.
Following the movement, right? The
Following the movement, yes.
Yeah.
As always, I mean, the light is there to make the dance visible, not to distract from it. If I distract from it, then I've made a mistake.
Going back to Esplanade and the darkness of the second section, talking about that a little bit. Just for our audience, when you said you tinker back and forth during that section, I know what you mean, because literally we have like lights at full is 100%, right? And then, but I think something like 20 or 25%, these one system of lights come on, something like that. Your tweaking, right, is like 1 or 2 points here and there back and forth. Is that right, Jennifer?
Right. Yes. And when you're touring, and depending on equipment that you find, different equipment that you find in different places, what's 8% in one place can be 12% in another place. So down when you're at the low reading like that, you are sort of tweaking to find out the proper balance.
Yeah. Wonderful second section. And ends, of course, with the downpool, right? And the crawling.
Right, which I call the sheep.
You call it the sheep. The dancers call it cows, I think.
Oh, I see. Well, I call it sheep.
And then, of course, it comes back up to bright lights again, and very active third section.
Right. Yes.
And then the medium section for the romantic section, and then bright again. It's easy, but it's specific, as you said before. Specific.
Yes, it's specific, but Paul chose everyday movements, let's say, with runs and walks and turns and jumps and falls, and so I felt that it should be easy lighting. It should be front and back and both sides, and just a balance of those 4 directions. That it shouldn't be. I guess the diagonal is really the most complicated part of the lighting.
Yeah. And when Paul made that dance, Jennifer, I mean, right now we know it's one of his masterwork, one of the complete masterworks of the 20th century, right? But what did you think when you saw it for the first time?
It was pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
Exhilarating, let's say. Yes, it's always exhilarating.
When you're in the studio with Paul and you're seeing the run through.
But these days in the theater, I mean, every time you see it, it's exhilarating. I was very lucky, you see, so because Paul trusted me early on, and therefore we never said very much. I mean, he would always say, look, I need a blackout here because they're going to go off stage and be replaced by this other group of dancers. But there would be occasional places where he would say, well, I think it gets very bright here, or I think it should be darker here. But they were very rare. Usually he left it to me, and I think he was pleased. We had the same aesthetic in some way. As a matter of fact, probably Paul is responsible a lot for my aesthetic.
That's great. Oh, that's really wonderful. To hear that your collaboration changed your work, of course. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. I have lit dances of yours from other companies and never spoken to you. I just pick up your paperwork, which I know how to read so well, your shorthand, concept sheet. It was always very easy for me to follow your notes, Jennifer, and
yes, well, you see, I follow my notes too. I mean, if the dance is being done in a different place, in fact, I learned from that, even though, I light an opera in one place, and I'm going to take it to another theater, then I make a concept sheet so that I can quickly go through, and it tells me what to do. It tells me the balance of the backlight, the front light, and the side light. It tells me the balance of the specials. It tells me how bright this is compared to that. So they're invaluable, and they work.
You know, if someone were wanting to learn about the dance, they should certainly look at your concept sheets, because you had a great eye and you had a strong feeling about the work. So, and it's in the concept sheet.
The best light is low side light, and I don't mean floor side light, but head high, or head high, let's call it. It shows the body in its full dimension. It's not used in theater very much because people come and stand and talk to each other, and therefore shadow each other from lights, like side lights like that. But in dance, the dancers are moving in and out of it, so the shadow is not bothersome.
So you would say your most important position would be that head high position on the side light.
Right. Certainly side light, yes.
Yeah. Okay, good to know.
I mean, back in the early days when we were traveling with only 8 lights and 8 stands, I remember in Beloit, Wisconsin, I think, we performed in a gymnasium. And I simply set up the 4 stands one side and 4 stands the other side. And that light delineated the space of the stage, and the dancers danced within that space.
But you do use front light. You know, you do.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you do quite a lot.
No,
Yeah.
and Paul was very clear. He wanted the faces to show.
Yes. Well, his dancers are so multifaceted, right? They can be just bodies in space, and then they can have like big acting parts.
Right, right.
Let's talk about Piazzolla Caldera. That's a very fun and popular piece that Paul made and premiered at ADF and then later in New York. What do you recall about your approach?
With the hanging lights, with the practicals hanging above,
yeah,
I felt very strongly that the look of the piece should be that the light was coming from those practicals. And so there's high side cross light was the sort of primary source, with the side lights being red, and the stage was smoky as well. So all of the lights showed in the smoke. And the backdrop was kind of hazy, smoky too. And there's another piece of Paul's that called Runes, that I put lights on the apron to make shadows on the background. Well, once again, those lights became a tool in the repertory. And so in Piazzolla, in one of the duets, the 2 lights on the floor made the duet a quartet because it added shadows, or maybe even more people. It added shadows on the background. It was fun too, because at one point in the dance, the stage light went out, and someone on the crew sort of tweaked a rope that set the practical swinging.
Yeah.
And there was more smoke that got released on the stage. So when the lights slowly came up, it was this hazy, drunken kind of scene with these 2 men in their shadows. And anyway, Piazzolla is one of my favorites.
I love that swinging moment. So it's so great. It throws everyone off. And usually there's a huge gasp in the audience. They don't know what the heck's going on. You know, everyone's feeling a little drunk. It's pretty great. It's really, really great. And it is a very simple trick. Just as you say, Jennifer, they put a little string on the pipe that is hanging that, and on the cue, they pull it and they let go, and that's it. Very inexpensive, but very effective effect. You know what I find interesting about Piazzolla and some of your choices there, like the main character, Francie Huber, when she's the soloist, the lights are very red until she comes out and starts dancing with men, and then she later has a solo. Well, the stage turns blue instead of
Yes, that's a
red.
Santo idea, as a matter of fact.
Oh, I love it.
That, yes, but that for me, it's a little bit of a too abrupt change. But Santo loved it, so it's there.
Yeah, I love it because it's curious. The picture at the end it's startling. It's can you talk about that at all?
Well, once again, it's just being specific. Here you have a group of dancers on stage dancing, so the light is on them. And then there's a chord. And so the light goes down to the dancer who is falls to the floor, and then it blacks out.
Yeah. 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 I love that breath. I love that breath at the end. How do you have the guts, Jennifer, to make it so dark? How you're kind of known for being able to pull off this darkness in dance.
Well, as long as you can see what you're supposed to see.
Mm-hmm.
That and often it may feel dark because of the dark surround, but the dancer or dancers are lit, are in light, and so you see them clearly, and you may see them even better because it's dark around them.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yes.
But
Sometimes
certainly the impression that you're left with is the darkness, because that's the space was dark.
Piazzolla, of course, was designed by Santo Loquasto, the scenery and the costumes.
It was when Santo came to start working with the company that the pieces that we did in an evening really looked different one from the other. And Santo has a brilliant touch and a brilliant way of solving problems and thinking about solutions.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful designer. It's
Oh.
a real honor to be working with him. As I said in the beginning, I learned everything I know from Paul, and working with those dances, lighting those dances, and trying to get to the heart of them, to the core of them, with the light. And it's been an extraordinary experience. I mean, it is my life.
Jennifer, I want to thank you so much for enlightening us about your work with the Paul Taylor Company and your work with Paul. You are a treasure. It's been an honor. I thank you for all of your contributions to the legacy of this company.
It has been my pleasure. I cannot tell you how much my pleasure. Well, as I say, it's my life. So I love the work. I love the Taylor Company.
What an incredible woman, and what an incredible piece. Piazzolla definitely is one of my favorites when I was a dancer in the company. The world that Paul and Jennifer and Santo create, it really transforms your experience as an artist, and now being on the outside, how that artwork translates for the audience. It's just magical. She's incredible.
And what a wonderful way to wrap up Women's History Month, like in celebration of this iconic female artist in the field. It's just been great. So wrapping up our chat, we'll just remain live for the next few minutes. So feel free to stay on and connect with us and ask more questions. We look forward to hearing from you. And finally, another special thank you to the Department of Cultural Affairs and our Board of Directors and Advisors for their ongoing support.
Stay strong, everyone. Stay healthy, and stay tuned for more exciting developments from all of us here at the Paul Taylor family. See you soon.